Hey folks, and welcome to a special episode of iWizard. Tonight, we're going to do a long overdue bookshelf tour. I have not done this before, so this will be an experiment. I'm going to take you guys, ideally, on a tour of the books that are so important to me, and you guys will get to check out my special little bookish paradise here, so stay tuned. All right, so we're going to start in the office/den. You can see my desk there. It's where I currently film and edit my booktube videos. I'm still trying to figure out if this is really the right place to do that, or if there's possibly another place in my condo that you guys think would be better, maybe in front of one of the bookcases. You'll have to let me know in the comments. You can see there I like to keep things simple. I don't have that many desk toys. Got my Atlas statue, you can see there, my wedding picture. This is the locker where I keep podcasting equipment. All right, so let's make our way over here to the sci-fi section. We're going to start over here, moving from the left to the right, just like we read, starting with Christopher Rocchio's Sun Eater series. This is one of the best modern sci-fi series currently running. Christopher's a great guy. I consider him a personal friend. And speaking of, we're probably going to do an Ashes of Man chat coming up here in the next couple of weeks or so, whenever I finish the book. So I'll keep you guys updated about that. Got the Commonwealth Saga by Peter F. Hamilton, as you can see there. That is one I'm currently reading, about halfway through my reread of Pandora's Star right now, and of course my mismatched Alistair Reynolds collection. You can see here I have my Dune collection. I've only read book 1 of Dune. But my brother-in-law got me the full set there, as you can see. C.J. Cherryh's Down Below Station, one of the best sci-fi novels I've ever read. Got the Barnes & Noble Classics, H.G. Wells and Douglas Adams there. Robert Heinlein. This is the Robert Heinlein shelf as well, one of my favorite authors of all time. And you can see there the biography of Robert A. Heinlein, a rare treat there with the 2-volume hardcovers. Down below here you can see this is the miscellaneous section, Lucifer's Hammer, Feed by M.T. Anderson, one of the best dystopian novels I've ever read. Solaris, I teach that book in my fantasy and sci-fi course. Snow Crash, Cyberpunk, I've taught that before. Got the first book of the Void trilogy by Peter F. Hamilton in hardcover, as you can see there, just got it for Christmas. This is my science section. I'm a big dinosaur fan, big dinosaur buff, love reading books about that. Big Carl Sagan fan as well. Got the Bill Bryson, the Richard Dawkins, that's a book about evolution there, the Language Instinct. And as we move up here, it becomes kind of philosophy. That's Plato's Republic. That's the Alan Bloom translation, The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. We've got I minored in Asian studies, so we've got Buddhism texts. We've got classics of pre-modern Japan, like Tale of Genji and The Life of an Amorous Woman and the Tale of the Heike. We've got Alan Watts, some Western interpretations of Buddhism there. These are my guitars. We've got the Fender Jazzmaster, the Takamine Acoustic, and the American Telecaster there, Vox amp, and my bass amp. And then we've got some old school sci-fi prints there on the wall. We go down here to this bookshelf. We've got R.A. Salvatore's Dark Elf trilogy, some edited Christopher Rocchio volumes, Larry Correia, Tim Powers, got DJ Butler, a very underrated author, some more Bain books there. You know I love my Bain books. Okay, now we enter the living room. Here you kind of get the full view of my condo. We just purchased this condo over the summer. We're loving it. You can see the Christmas tree here as we swivel around. Merry Christmas, everyone from Massachusetts. You can see the comfy reading chair over here in the corner. We call this interior design style cozy modernism. Cozy modernism. And so, okay. Now we approach the tower bookshelves in the media center. We start with the top shelf here on the left. My Barnes & Noble Classics edition of Dune, replicating the OC Bible there. Name of the Wind, Patrick Rothfuss. Malice by John Gwynne. I read Malice 2 summers ago and loved it. Been anxious ever since to finish the series. Got the hardcover editions of the first 2 Vorkosigan Saga novels by Lois McMaster Bujold. I've read The Belgariad, but have not read Chronicles of Amber by Zelazny, or even The Last Unicorn by Peter Beagle, but I do plan to read those this year. God grant me more time. Here we have The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, The Silmarillion. I teach the first two in my fantasy and sci-fi course, Neverending Story, Book of the New Sun. I've reviewed both of those books on this channel. If you haven't yet seen my Book of the New Sun chats with Christopher Rocchio, please do check them out. Elric Saga 2, look at those beautiful new hardcover editions. I haven't read a single solitary word of the Elric Saga, but that is on my 2023 TBR. On this shelf, we have not only the Dueling Dragons, Dany riding Drogon, and you've got the Night King on his dragon, but we also have the complete Folio Society edition of Song of Ice and Fire. My wife, Nikki, has been getting me these books for the past 2.5 years. Every birthday and Christmas, I get another one as we wait for the next one to come out. You've got the full expanded map, the beautiful artwork by Jonathan Burton, slipcases, printed end papers, just top of the line. And then of course we have the World of Ice and Fire and Fire and Blood. Next up we have Diana Gabaldon's Outlander series. My wife is a huge fan of the show and the books. Unfortunately, I've only seen the show, can't speak to the books. Also have the Mistborn saga there. I've only read the first book, so that's a shelf I can't really say much about. Bottom shelf, we get into some of our records. We have Howard Shore's score for Lord of the Rings, the full Game of Thrones DVD box set, Stephen King's The Stand, which is the last book I reviewed. We've got Black Sun Rising by C.S. Friedman, one of my favorite fantasy novels of all time. R. Scott Baker's The Darkness That Comes Before. I loved that book, and that's another one on my TBR for 2023. Up here we have the Buffy comics. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is near and dear to our hearts, and Nikki loves the show so much she continued on and read all of the comics, so we plan to do some content for that. If you haven't done so already, check out our epic bracket showdown of the rankings of the best Buffy episodes of all time. This shelf is kind of a hodgepodge. Got the Gareth Hines graphic novel of Homer's Odyssey, Hobbit graphic novel, beautiful art in that one, the complete Conan the Barbarian, Conan graphic novel, Dinotopia by James Gurney, gorgeous artwork in there, some Warren Ellis, Frank Miller. Again, this one's really Nikki's shelf. She's an old school hippie. Some comics, Woody Allen, Bret Easton Ellis's latest book, some art books, At the Existentialist Cafe, awesome book, Rock and Woodstock, my Uncle Paul actually wrote that book. We've got horror, Dracula folio, H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, The Secret History by Donna Tartt, Haunting of Hill House, Empire of the Vampire. That's one that I keep getting recommended. Something Wicked This Way Comes. Down here we've got more records, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer game that requires you to paint figurines, and you can see there the Daria CDs. Okay, so Nikki actually made those for me and gave them to me for Christmas. Daria, as you know, is like an old school sequel to Beavis and Butthead. Daria is basically this goth girl with this very intellectual, witty, dry sense of humor, and she's very kind of thoughtful and unconventional. So Nikki knows that I love 90s music, so she basically made a soundtrack because the music in that show is so great. She designed the covers and just went over the top on this gift. So here we're going to swivel to the big bookcase. This is our new bookcase. Got a very modernist style there. Love this bookcase. There's Simi the cat. And we will come around here, starting with the top left. I'm a big fan of Victorian literature and that time period as a whole, and so this is Middlemarch by George Eliot. That is the pen name of Marianne Evans. We've got Travels of a Victorian Photographer and a History of the Victorian Period by A.N. Wilson. These are all Folio Society books. I actually interviewed his daughter, Emily Wilson, on this channel. We have these fine Lego Harry Potter creations that my wife built. Diagon Alley there. You can see there close up. We've got Dumbledore and the train to go along with it. This light has something to do with Harry Potter as well. I just forget what it is. The 3-volume set of His Dark Materials. These here to the right are the original Harry Potter hardcovers. These are Nikki's, and she's read them many times over. Princess Bride Folio Edition. This is one of my wife's favorite movies, and it's a book we're going to be reading and reviewing together in the coming months. I love it too, so I'm excited about that. Treasury of Irish Tales, that's quite special to us as we both have Irish blood in us, Irish, and have been to Ireland and plan to go again. Lewis Carroll, Chronicles of Narnia. These are the Barnes & Noble Classics edition, and the thing about these is that they do gain in value over time. At this point, both of these editions are rare. We got the Merlin Trilogy by Mary Stewart. I've yet to read that one. Once and Future King Folio Edition. Have yet to read that. Got the Blue and Pink Fairy books. These are collections of fairy tales compiled by Andrew Lang. Beautiful folio editions. Blue Fairy Book has Little Red Riding Hood, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Aladdin, Rumpelstiltskin, Beauty and the Beast, Puss in Boots, Goldilocks, Hansel and Gretel, Snow White. And then we have the Pink Fairy Book. There are like 12 of them in all, and I think folio sells all of them. Over here we have Dickens' Dream. This is one of my favorite prints. This is a reflection of Dickens's magisterial imagination, the way he's able to dream up characters. We've got our DVD collection with the Buffy the Vampire Slayer DVD set, our horror films, our favorite sci-fi, Harry Potter, Outer Limits, The Trip, Rushmore, Criterion Collection, all that good stuff over there with the DVDs. And we go back here to the second shelf from the top, Flaubert's Madame Bovary, which is basically about this bougie, bored, desperate housewife who lives beyond her means because it's the only way she can escape the boredom and ennui and emptiness of her sad provincial life. It's really kind of a sad story. Portrait of a Lady by Henry James. Haven't read that one yet, but I mean to soon. Life of Johnson by his best bud, Boswell, one of the great works of literary biography ever published. Anna Karenina, of course, David Copperfield. Here's a Barnes & Noble Classics edition of 5 Dickens novels. Dickens is my favorite writer, probably of all time, so you're going to see quite a bit of Dickens here. Jane Austen, 7 novels. Pursuit of Love. That's a book Nikki has read. I don't know anything about it. War and Peace, every bookshelf has to have that, even if, like me, you haven't read it. Actually, a girl gave me this War and Peace edition in college, and I think I was supposed to give it back to her, but I forgot. Unfortunately, she never asked for it back. A Christmas Carol and Other Stories, Robinson Crusoe. Nikki read that, apparently. Didn't love it, said it was kind of boring and overly stream of consciousness. Dickens's Bleak House, Count of Monte Cristo, one of Nikki's favorite books. Thomas Hardy, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, and Far from the Madding Crowd. These are those Penguin cloth-bound editions. Got that hard-boiled, old-fashioned noir detective fiction with Dashiell Hammett's Maltese Falcon here. My stepdad got me this edition along with the film. Anthony Trollope, John Galsworthy, two underappreciated English novelists of manners and morals that you don't hear talked about much these days. Okay, Barnes & Noble Complete Sherlock Holmes, first volume of Proust's Remembrance of Things Past here with Swan's Way. And the whole thing begins with the main character biting into a Madeleine cookie, and the taste of that brings him back to his childhood in Cambrai. Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain. There's a new audiobook version of this that is just fabulous, so I have to check that out. And here we have the poetry section. I'm not like the biggest poetry buff in the world, but I do love the romantics, folks like Wordsworth, Coleridge, Keats, Shelley, and the modernist poets, Marianne Williams, William Carlos Williams, Wallace Stevens. For some reason, I put Homer's Odyssey here too. I mean, they're technically long, ancient Greek poems. Got the Greek tragedies, which I love. Shakespeare, who is in the top 5 greatest artists who's ever lived. The ultimate creative genius par excellence. The King James Bible, which has been immensely generative and is essential reading if you want to understand the canon of Western literature. I feel like this shelf is really a desert island shelf. If I had to go down into a fallout shelter and I had to pick a shelf, this might be the one that I would pick right here. Over here, we've got the Leonid Afremov painting. Sadly, Afremov recently passed away. We bought this because it reminded us of myself and Nikki walking down a tree-lined street on a rainy afternoon. Okay, on to the third shelf. Here we have lots of 19th and 20th century literature, including this exquisite Easton Press leather-bound edition of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That's a book I teach every year, along with Crime and Punishment. We've got the Bronte sisters here next to each other, The Great Gatsby, this underappreciated mystery thriller classic by Patricia Highsmith, the talented Mr. Ripley. We've got Henry Green. John Updike thought that Green was one of the greatest novelists of all time. Thomas Mann, Stories of 3 Decades. This is one of the best collections of short stories I've ever read. I read this book while I was working at the Plant Breeding and Genetics Lab at Cornell. I was getting my master's in teaching at Ithaca College. My wife was attending Cornell, and so I worked part-time in that lab, and I would read this during my lunch breaks. Great stories like Death in Venice, Tonio Kroger, A Man and His Dog, The Dilettante. We've got some D.H. Lawrence, Sons and Lovers, a biography of Dickens that I just read, and the Folio Society of Possession by A.S. Byatt. This is one of my favorite books, actually. It's about these two scholars who fall in love in the library when they make an astonishing discovery about this romantic poet that they're both researching. Okay, and this is what I like to call my Western Civ collection. So we've got Land of Hope, a fantastic American history textbook by Wilfred McClay, Introducing the Ancient Greeks by Edith Hall. I had her on this channel to talk about that book a couple months ago. Our Republican Constitution. It's a great book that goes into detail about the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, what these documents mean, natural law theory, all that stuff. Extremely useful for my ethics unit in philosophy. Political Theory of the American Founding. We have a history book, Paul Johnson's A History of the American People. So Johnson is like the anti-Howard Zinn, and this book is like the opposite of A People's History of the United States. We've got The Swerve, great book by Stephen Greenblatt about Lucretius, Age of Wonder by Richard Holmes, History of Western Philosophy by Bertrand Russell. Great books, absolutely fantastic. We are moving along here to the fourth shelf down, and we move to the left side of this bookshelf. This is my mid-century suburban fiction biography of John Updike there, Don DeLillo's White Noise, the Bascombe novels by Richard Ford, one of the greatest series of novels I've ever read. John Updike's Rabbit tetralogy, absolutely brilliant writing. This Boy's Life, Tobias Wolff, excellent writer. Jeffrey Eugenides, one of the greatest writers ever, with The Marriage Plot, Virgin Suicides. Richard Yates, you can see all of these are kind of modernist, minimalist, sort of masculine, suburban fiction. As John Updike said, his mission writing was to give the mundane its beautiful due. The novels of Richard Russo, which are about these kind of post-industrial New England towns and all the people that have been left behind, really about lower-class folks just trying to get by. These novels are kind of the antithesis of that in Ayn Rand, her biography there on the bottom, Atlas Shrugged, The Fountainhead, Anthem. We got my copy of the Constitution there, and Ron Swanson on top of that. We've got some more Tobias Wolff. This section is really my Western, Midwestern collection here, with Cormac McCarthy, J.D. Vance's Hillbilly Elegy, Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove. Got The Crossing. We've got Walker Percy's The Moviegoer, The Brave Cowboy, Weinberg, Ohio. We've got To Kill a Mockingbird. We've got Faulkner. We've got Colm Toybeen's Brooklyn, which is kind of an immigrant story. A collection of classic westerns. Howard Mosner's Northern Borders, Huck Finn. All these great novels, Uprooted by Grace Olmsted. We've got my collection of philosophy and existential literature, Joseph Campbell's Myths of Light, Jean-Paul Sartre, his partner Simone de Beauvoir, William Barrett's A Rational Man. Is a great kind of genealogy of existential thought. Kafka's The Trial, Albert Camus, Sartre's novels, collection of short stories, The Wall, his profile of Baudelaire, Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, Kafka's Metamorphosis, The Brothers Karamazov, a collection of Nietzsche's writings translated by Walter Kaufmann, Soren Kierkegaard's Either Or, J.M. Coetzee's brilliant novel Disgrace, Schopenhauer's essays, Milan Kundera, a biography of Soren Kierkegaard, Denial of Death by Ernest Becker, and 2 folio editions of Kierkegaard's Fear and Trembling and Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Nietzsche. We've got the Norton Anthology of Literature here, and this is a collection here of works of political philosophy. You've got George F. Will, you've got Christopher Lasch, you've got all sorts of great thinkers here. Ideas Have Consequences. This here that I'm pulling out is The House of Government. It's a book that I'm reading right now with my good buddy Tom, and we are going to have a chat about that book on this channel. It's kind of a history of the Soviet Union there, a really chunky chunky book, Suicide of the West. The Unbroken Thread, I spoke to the author on this channel and actually reviewed that book online. Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self by Carl Trueman, an excellent account of the sexual revolution and the rise of expressive individualism. Okay, here we have down on the bottom shelf, Jonathan Franzen, one of my favorite novelists, Donna Tartt, Andrew Klavan's mystery novels there, When Christmas Comes, and the sequel, Strange Habit of Mind, V.S. Paul, David Foster Wallace, my Uncle Paul's novel there on the right-hand side that he just wrote. A little more philosophy here, kind of miscellaneous section, the complete works of Aristotle. The Viking Heart by Arthur Herman, interviewed him about that book on this channel. Life in a Medieval Village, History of the English Language by David Crystal. Justice, a book by Michael Sandel. That book's kind of a summation of utilitarianism, deontology, libertarianism, virtue ethics, kind of a philosophy book there. And Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics. Everything I know about economics I learned from that book for the most part. And now we head on over here past the olive tree and past the kitchen area there and into this little dining room slash nook area. We've got the bar and some cookbooks over there. We've got a wax acrostic artwork by my aunt. This is Nikki's painting over here based on Jean-Paul Sartre's Nausea. This is another one yep, there it is. This is another one of Nikki's paintings here based on Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra. We head now here into the hallway and into the bedroom. We will stop by this little bookshelf over here where we have some miscellaneous books. What do we have here? The Velveteen Rabbit and our wedding photography book. We've got some guides to London and England and literary London and Bill Bryson's book about England and that sort of thing. Moving here into the bedroom. Oh, look at that. We have two little cute kitties and a very cute lady, my wife, Nikki. A little look around the bedroom. It's a very special place. Nikki, I believe, is reading The Expanse. I forget what book she is on. Here we have Penguins Loves Classics. You can see works by Virgil and D.H. Lawrence and F. Scott Fitzgerald and Sigmund Freud and Anton Chekhov and Leo Tolstoy and Thomas Hardy. Great little collection there. We have Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive, or at least some of it. Cushill's Dart, the Peter Pan books by Dave Barry. We have Ursula Le Guin's Earthsea, Neverwhere. Nikki's about to review that. Neil Gaiman's American Gods, Tim Powers. We've got Jules Verne, Jurassic Park, The Blade Itself. I have to get to that in 2023. The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin. A little bit of whiskey there. We've got The Expanse series by James S.A. Corey. Looks like Nikki is reading number 8 on Nikki's Kindle. The second book of C.S. Friedman's series there. We've got The Hunger Games and Plague of Angels and Muriel Barbary's Life of Elves and Watership Down. And if I move this picture here, we've got Night Circus by Aaron Morgenstern. I really enjoyed that. A very sort of fun, whimsical, aesthetic novel there. Naomi Novik's Uprooted, our chess set. We're backing up here, backing up. Hello, Nikki. She is in Never Neverland. What do we have here? We have a purse that we bought in Europe, which has book covers on it. That is a painting from Scotland. And I keep a few books by my bedside as well, so that I can drift off to sleep with a good book. And we are back, and we're going to head back here and wrap this up. Guys, I want to just thank you so much for going on this journey with me, for giving this a listen, for touring my condo, Mi Casa Su Casa. It was lovely to have you in my home. You're welcome anytime. Please subscribe to this channel and follow me on Patreon. Follow me on Goodreads. follow me on Facebook, and we're going to have a great time together. 2023 is going to be just an epic, wonderful, inspiring year. We're going to accomplish all of our goals together here, and once again, thank you so much. And in the meantime, folks, happy reading. I'll see you in the new year.